Okay, here is a 1987 Buick Regal T. That I've acquired. Okay, here's the radiator, and I pulled it out to have it taken apart and overhauled. Core's not rotten at all. And here's the other side. Okay, I got the motors out of this 87 G body. One thing these are particularly noted for are running very slow. These pinions in the case here appear to be very good and tight yet. Considering it's a pretty young car and they are GM motors that bolt up with not the replacement rivet plates. Anyway, this armature can come out of here, and you can inject a bunch of grease into these pots, into this main bearing boss and the channel on the pinion here, as well as burishing the armature, which I've done already. And you can see that. Along with the motor brushes, which you load to the outside on a plastic collar on the brush point to make it run faster. So that's what's going on with the power windows. It's quite a chore, but worthwhile in the end. Okay, there it is. Okay, here's what I mean by grouting the armature. You can see those commutator segments that I have not yet grouted, or the commutator I have cleaned, are pretty bad, and here's where I just started to clean them out. And you rebrush these motors and get some grease up into the pot on the motor, up in the motor channel and the gear case. Spot a hole, well, about right here, and the power windows work like new. So it's kind of a given with regard to maintenance. So working on that. Okay, back on the 87 and just remove the fuel tank. Here's an interesting note to make. This variable resistor, which is the float, you can burnish this point here after you take this can cover off, as well as this resistor in here. And it's ground on the outside. You can see that that's been scuffed, as well as that bearing point on the other side. But mainly this point here, just reburnish it and increase the spring pressure just a little bit here. Pardon my middle finger. And that gets that digital fuel gauge back up and going nice. So got the gas gauge going. Fuel tank's nice. Okay, with finality to the gas gauge topic, it is all back together. You can see that pot's all peened back after that finger is cleaned, and everything is perfect. About 90 ohms full and nothing empty. So that's what that's all about. You don't want any hash in between these numbers. They won't be consistent. There's no real shunt here, but that finger is just a variable resistor, or potentiometer, if you will, for that digital or analog gauge, whichever you may have, to get that up and going. Easy as that. Okay, that's that. Okay, now we're into the starter. I'm going to grout this armature as well and rebrush this. These are very rebuildable motors, and for 17,000 miles this is what expectant, I guess, but they're still nowhere near worn the end. Very nice. And I'll overhaul that solenoid as well, and we'll reburnish this point inside here, this rotary wheel, and just turn this point here 180 degrees, and this will be like new again. All good. Very, very nice starter. Okay, and the result is a like new starter better than anything you can buy. Grouted, rebursed, that armature rebrushed, and bearings are fine, and solenoid, everything as I showed you. So just pop these pins and pop the brush heads out, and that is that. And boy, it just flies like fire. So that's the starter done. Okay, this is a setback. Get this, now I'm driving along up the road, 25 miles an hour, just driving. Notice the oil light's on, shut it off right away, no oil pressure. This is a Mellings pump, and these were known, these 231s, for having and exhibiting oil pressure issues. I found that I had about 80 pounds pressure cold, too much, and at a hot idle about 40 to 45, according to the gauge. Anyway, long story short, now having zero, I took it all apart, looked in the housing, couldn't find anything, look at the gears, couldn't find anything, and then all of a sudden it happened. See that crack in that gear? And you won't believe the result. It's hard to see. There it goes. See it turn? Turning right inside the gear. So under the pressure with these gears colliding to produce oil pressure, it's not. That should be a solid entity, and it's not. Now, did it ruin the engine? Well, that remains to be seen. And if it did, I'm going to have to hold someone to account, being that I only have 17,000 on this engine. So that is a damn big setback for me. The cam sensor looks alright. The gears look alright. The cover looks alright. And again, there was no problem. Just an upgrade while I was in putting a timing chain in with the button on the end of the camshaft. Because the stationary buttons back in the time eroded this cover. So rather than have a button that spins around here, as I said in a prior mentioned clip, there's a bearing where that plate will sit and rest, and it'll ride on a bearing right here. That camshaft, as not to allow it to walk out. And that's the setback. More later on that. Terrible. So machinists and rebuilders will say, just as a general barometer, about 10 pounds per 1,000 RPM is the rule. So 5,000 RPMs would be 50 pounds of pressure in a normal circumstance, perhaps more, and a relief valve that is calibrated to pop off that excessive pressure, because believe it or not, too much pressure is as much of a detriment as not enough. There's a relief valve, and or the blow off, the oil relief valve with the spring and the nut atop it, which predetermines when the pump will bypass, if you will, is a different colored spring equals X for pressure. All right, and here we see the assembly. Good new chain and oil slinger on. There's that bearing that I spoke about. That bearing face will ride on that cover, and that aforementioned example on that cover where the button wore it down. And this is its own bearing here on the end, see? So when that cam walks, it's going to ride up against that bearing. Later, when these engines evolved into 3800 counterbalanced engines, that was a given to install that. So we are ready to go. And that shows you the timing chain and front cover. Gee, I love some oil pressure. Let's see if we can get some. Let's see here that I use the OEM transducer or switch, I guess for lack of a better word, on that T and the VDO gauge. And that OEM sensor is what saved my life, so to speak. I saw the pressure fall and got a message light right away. And those lights are LEDs, and man, it was just looking right at me, and I shut it off right now. So Thanks, light. It's one time where a gauge was kind of useless because I wasn't happening to look at it. Okay. Okay, with a cleaned cover, we are now going back to stock oil pump. Everything is ready, set, go. Clean and ready to reassemble. And I got some play in that shaft when the cover is on, which you need, you need to have play. Probably 2/1000 inch. So it's ready to go. Let's see what we get. Got a real throaty exhaust. Damn, I said it before and I'll say it again. Aren't you pretty? Woo. Alright. Got most, or if not all, the dents out. Versus painting this car, I'm going to put the body side molding on that somebody omitted that it once originally had. The finish looks pretty nice. And wheels look real good too. There isn't much of an accent with those center caps, but I may get some aftermarket. Don't know. Man, is that pretty or what? There's a beautiful rack on a woman, and then there's an 87 Regal T. You decide which is the first in the order. Ah, God, is that pretty. Steal my heart, baby. And this side's pretty dark, but the same, of course. Okay, and that shows you that. Forgot the back end. And progressing, put on a body side molding. And got the edges correct, at the correct molding. So that's done. Makes for a nice line. Nice clean line. So that is all set. And I thank you.